What I presented today is Sopexa's foodie study. A few months ago, actually almost a year ago, we realized that no one anywhere in the world had ever done a comparative study of the foodie across different countries. And that's important because the foodie is not only somebody that is passionate about food, someone that considers it a determining element of their personality, but is also someone that is very active on social media about food. Therefore, they're an influencer. They are someone that is going to talk about your product if they love it. And therefore, understanding who they are, where you can find them, and what gets them going is key to a really great food marketing campaign. The key is that the foodie is actually surprisingly different from country to country, and that you need to not assume that your foodie is the same as their foodie. For example, the American foodie is significantly older than a foodie in France or in China, and that means that they won't have the same type of interest in food. One is going to be more interested in at-home cooking, whereas the other foodie might be more interested in the kinds of cool recipes you can find with hip chefs in great restaurants. And understanding where you can talk about your product that is going to resonate with your audience, that's really what good marketing is all about. So when you're looking at an initial produce that then gets transformed and sold a little further out, what you can try to influence as a group is the trends and sharing information that is going to be influential in shifting trends. For example, we know that in specific markets, foodies are quite health conscious, that they care about eating well. And for example, in the United States, we know that Americans tend to eat too much protein from animal products, that we should have much less, probably only half of our protein intake from animal products and the rest from vegetables or vegetable products. So where does that leave us? Well, that leaves us with soy. And that is a message that can be enhanced, that can be promoted through content, through PR, through social media. And of course, an individual grower is going to have a tough time doing that, but pooling all the efforts together and really working on organized commodity board campaigns that are going to be pushing those messages out, influencing those foodies, that's really something that you can do. So for buyers, some of the information that was interesting in that presentation is where do I need to invest some of my marketing dollars to share, to push my information. So one of the things we looked at is where do foodies look for their information and what information they're looking for. Well, as a buyer, you can also figure out, should I be investing my meager marketing dollars with this online supermarket or with this main supermarket over here? Can I help this product in their marketing efforts, or should I help this one? Figuring out what the end consumer is looking for is going to help them determine where they should be investing their marketing dollars. Some markets tend to be obviously trend-setting. Here in the United States, New York, San Francisco tend to be trend-setting. And that means that when we do these research, we look at the overall market, and sometimes that's a bit of a dissonance with the more trend-setting markets. What we see is that sustainability and organics are very trendy. And I don't say it in the, oh, trendy, it'll be here and gone, but it's becoming more and more important because people are worried about what they eat. They're worried about what's been put in their food, and they want to understand where it's coming from. And I think that understanding where my food is coming from is something that is going to be more and more prevalent in all markets. We see it in China, where there's always a concern about where is my product produced, because there have been a few scares there. We see it in Korea with different products are more or less cool, and I want to eat the cool stuff. And we see it here in the United States with we've never paid enough attention, and it's time for me to look into it. So I think that taking the time to understand where my product is coming from is something that may feel counterculture in this time of never having enough time, and yet I think we're going to see people allotting more of their time to understand where the product is coming from. I think what we've seen is that organized efforts in marketing are hugely impactful. What we can try to influence is long-term trends, but that means really pooling efforts. And that really does have an impact in the long term. We've seen it with the multiple clients that we've worked with in several countries. And when you do have commodity board efforts, you really can have an impact on long-term trends. Let me give you a comparison. In France, tomatoes were getting a really bad rap. You had all these forums that were talking about the fact that tomatoes were bad these days, that they were tasteless, that you could never get any good tomatoes the way we used to be able to. The commodity board for French tomatoes said, okay, we've got to figure out what's wrong here. They did research. They looked at who was complaining, what was going on, and then pulled together groups of experts to really address the issue, not only with a quick PR press release of, don't worry, we'll fix it, but actually going deep and figuring out how can we address this issue and figuring out if there was really a dissatisfaction. That's the kind of concerted effort, looking at an issue that may be too big for individual growers to address. But as I was saying, this idea of in certain countries we have too much animal protein being consumed. That is something that USEC could address. But for that, they sort of need, all the growers to stand behind them.